Hi, I'm Carolyn Kiefer, live in Castle Rock. And I'm not sure what I can say. I did talk to a city employee. I talked to them on July 1st. I'm just trying to understand a lot of what's going on. I've talked to many of you. I asked them if there were currently any other NDAs with Tract or any other data center, and they told me no. I asked them why the infrasound, low-frequency noise, tonal noise was not addressed at all in the environmental review, the AUAR. They said, I don't know. I asked why industrial wastewater was not addressed in the AUAR. I was told, I don't know. I said, do you know what happens to the wastewater? Is it put down the city sewer? Is it put into the Vermilion River? I don't know. To agree that the city is the RGU, the regulatory governmental unit for noise, said yes. Does the City of Farmington have noise ordinances, or will they use the Minnesota Pollution Control's noise standards? The Minnesota Pollution Control standards would be used. These standards are measured in A-weighted decibels, which means that they filter out intentionally low-frequency noise and infrasound, which are so dangerous to humans. But they will be eliminated from the measurements. I said, do you know what the Minnesota Pollution Control noise standards are? I don't know. I then wrote them down and I said, do you understand what these numbers mean? No, I don't know. I asked if the city would monitor the noise or if the data center would self-monitor the sound. I don't know. What do I do if the sound is above the state noise standards? I don't know. I said, do I call the cops? Do I call you? He said, call the cops. I said, do the cops have decibel meters? Probably not. I asked if they would monitor the baseline data for infrasound and for low-frequency noise. It's a reasonable request for the city, who is the RGU, and they should make the developers do it. It's no cost to the city. That's their job, to request these reasonable things. The developer would need to pay for it to have it done, not the city. He said that maybe he could ask Tract. I said, you need to demand that they do it. This is your job. You're the regulatory unit. You need to, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to protect the citizens. He said, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Maybe I could ask them. This is the regulatory unit that's not really regulating. So they have the ability to require monitoring. And it's like, who's running the city, Farmington or Tract? He told me that he does not know much about sound. And he said, how can the city, I said, how can the city allow and then regulate what they know nothing about? I said, it looks to me like the residents are living nearby are being sacrificed for the project. He goes, I don't know if that's true. And I said, so you say that's a false statement? Silence. He would not say that's a false statement. The residents living nearby are being sacrificed for the project. I said, is that false? Silence. That's shocking. I was shocked. I didn't know what to do at that point. The residents that live near the data center will be guinea pigs. In the U.S., research labs are not allowed to expose humans to, and especially children, to infrasound low-frequency noise for a long period of time. The longest studies I've seen about 3 minutes, and you see results, and they heavily, lots of waivers to do it. Yet Tract will be allowed to expose the neighbors to these low-frequency noise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Not allowed in a research laboratory in this state, in this country. I asked how long expected construction would go on. I don't know. I asked again to give me an estimate, 1 to 10 years. He does not know much about this AUAR that he signed. I asked who all signed the NDAs. I don't know. Well, I can't give names, but you can read them in the newspaper. So there's not much transparency. I don't know. I don't know how something can be allowed like that. And it looks to me like Farmington is so desperate for money, they will sacrifice the quality of life, the mental and physical health of the residents for this project. If you look at Tract's own documents, I've looked at them, it says these are not appropriate for residential centers. They liken it to an airport, a data center like an airport. And you're putting it right next to people's homes.
Thank you. Council and Mayor, again, Nate Ryan, city staff. There's something I just want to say just real quick that's if you want to take it off my 5 minutes, that's fine. But Nick, I think that your statement, and I am addressing Nick because he's the one who read it, but you say you can't name people's names. If that woman wants to come up here and say who she talked to, she can. That is our First Amendment right, is to come up here and be able to speak. Now, she can't disparage that person because that's part of your rules, but technically she could. Just because it's part of your rules and you're going to call it done doesn't mean that her comment should be done. It's the First Amendment. The First Amendment exists between me and government. The First Amendment does not exist between me and my wife, or me or someone who I meet on the street. I don't have the right to say whatever I want to someone on the street, but I do have the right to say whatever I want just about to government. And you saying you can't name, that woman couldn't come up here and name the person who she talked to, and she was flustered, you're bullying them. You're bullying people into saying, well, you can't come up here and say name, I was going to make your comments done. We're going to effectively steal your First Amendment rights. So I used 2 minutes on that, but I think that's wrong, Nick. And I would really, really, really hope that you look into that. We have the right of the people to come and use this microphone and do that. And if you don't want us to have that right, as it's been explained to you before, then just do away with the public comments. You can do that too. So I'd like to be restarted in 5 minutes, but that's okay if I'm not. So what I came up here to talk about tonight is I noticed that as more and more new people come, they start where we were 2 years ago. They start with all the same things that they're wondering about 2 years ago. This person just came up here, this resident just came up here, and she's at the same point where we were at 2 years ago. And I'll say his name, we were talking to Tony about it 2 years ago. We don't have the answers. We don't know what's going to go there. I talked to Phil after the meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, and I was like, hey, Phil, why haven't you asked the questions? And Phil goes, well, we don't even know what's going to go there. BS. The AUAR says what's going to go there. The AUAR, this document that you're holding on to so much, is our environmental review process, the only required thing by the state of Minnesota, Holly. That specifically said a hyperscale data center. And the use said it was industrial. It didn't say anything other than industrial in terms of the use goes. So if you're standing on that, then why don't you truly stand on it? And why don't you truly try to zone that land as pure industrial properties? And why don't you know what's going to go there yet? The AUAR says business park, data center. It has never not been anything other than that. From the point that we learned about this project over 2 years ago to the point when more and more residents are learning about it even more. It's never changed. It's a data center. That's what it is. Yes, the end user hasn't been defined yet, but they're going, the end use, the highest and best use of that property is going to be a data center. That was explained to you in the AUAR process. The last thing I want to talk about is I'm curious why they're not moving dirt yet. Track came here a few weeks ago. They said that they were going to start. Is that because they found contaminants in the soil? Is that because they found heavy metals in the soil because of what was done to that golf course since the 1970s? Right? I remember growing up, and I'm not that old, but I remember my uncle and my aunts telling me stories about, running after the DDT truck because it smelled good, and, you've got all these chemicals coming off of that thing. Lo and behold, it causes cancer. Well, lo and behold, all those things that the golf course put on their property since 1970, they bind to the soil. Have you done any soil testing out there? Has the company done any soil testing out there? And what are the dust measures and protocols going to be? Guys, these things should have been decided. These things should have been talked about well before you approved a site plan, well before you did any of these things. Process, process, process. Let's think about what we need to do to have the end result get what we want. And I want a data center in Farmington. I've never not wanted one. But how do we get it there? Use zone land and follow the rules.
Thank you, Nate. Okay, my name's Maria Doffing. I'm from Hampton. And I definitely feel like I'm 2 years behind on the whole data center thing. I think you guys must be concerned about it, or some of you must be concerned about it. Sounds like we don't even know where it's going. But my dad used to go to the golf course there, and he's recovering from open heart surgery. He would be able to drive there. A lot of us are concerned about it. Yeah, do you guys know about the Jordan Aquifer? Does anybody know what that is?
You got this. Keep going. You got it.
Oh, thanks.
I'm here
I've
with you.
seen you. I've been watching the videos.
Right here
I'm
with
really behind.
It's okay. Keep going. You got this. You got this. Tell them what they need to hear. You got this.
Yeah. Does anybody know what the Jordan Aquifer is? Do people know? Yeah. We only have the tip of it. Most of it's in Iowa. I'm concerned that our water's gonna be taken up. I mean, yeah, I'm concerned for the people here, the guinea pigs. And I really don't know that much, but I know there's people that are suing you guys. And I don't know how Farmington's gonna fare through all that. And I grew up here. I would hate to see. Yeah, I gotta do my research, and you all are, and you are, and I don't know. I'm just thankful to be up here today, okay? And thank you so much.
Good job.
I appreciate you coming up.